and welcome to a new episode of Resilient Voices. We're recording this on like the third last day of the year of 2025. And with me in the studio here in Ericeira, I have a woman, Kate Shifman, a former New Yorker that lives her life in Portugal since quite some years. Is it 6 years, 7 years?
9 years.
It's 9 years. My God.
I'm
wow.
practically local.
You're basically local here. So with that said, welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this and to share my experiences and see maybe it's going to be helpful somehow to your listeners.
I think it will be very helpful, and I'm super excited about hearing your story about resilience, how you've grown more resilience, because I do know you a bit in other. We will come into that later on, I think. Yes. But just let's start in sort of the backstory. What was that moment in time that really shift your trajectory of your life, probably?
Yeah, I can think of a couple, but I think the most pertinent one and the one that kind of kicked off this current state of my phase of my life is happened 10 years ago. I was working in advertising, had the whole kind of like, dream career, Disney as a client, all of that. And I had a shift, which was, it wasn't really a burnout, but it was a very intense time, big campaigns and, working 24/7. And everything was successful. Everything turned out great. Like everybody called me to congratulate. It was amazing. And I needed a break. I needed to take some time off because I had been working for 6 months completely 24/7. And I felt that, just getting a ticket, to Mexico to drink, tequila on the beach wasn't really going to do it. So I said, okay, what do I actually want? And I ended up at a Shivananda ashram in the Bahamas. Shivananda is a kind of a strain of yoga practice. The center is it's less devotional and more based on philosophy. There are incredible thinkers and artists and writers and creators who come and teach and stay there. So it's really a place of culture, knowledge, discovery, and that was the moment that changed me, and that was the moment that changed my life. Through that experience, it became clear to me that I was not living my true life, and that I needed to rediscover my true self.
Wow. So really, you had no idea when you just felt like you lived your successful life, you lived a dream, a big career, you just worked intensely, and needed some time to just reconnect with yourself. And then you reconnected with your true self. Right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think like a lot of people, we go through these phases of self-discovery through spirituality, through various avenues that are open to us at that point that we are ready to receive, right? So I had several different experiences, along kind of like self-knowledge, spirituality, various kinds of like awakenings prior to that. So I think my mind, body, soul were longing for, I think, the next level of that.
Okay.
And that's when it came. That's why it became very, very clear to me that just going on vacation wasn't going to do it, that I actually needed a catalyst to fundamentally change my life. Maybe I wasn't aware of that, what I was packing, so to speak, but I knew instinctively that this was not going to be just a trip.
Okay. So how long was this ashram for, or this experience?
It was 10 days. It was 10 days. There was a lot of meditation. There were a lot of conversations. There was a lot of chanting. You don't want to hear me sing or chant, trust me. The monks were very nice. They didn't kick me out. But essentially and I didn't change my life right away, but the seed was there, and I knew I had the ability to reconnect with what I truly needed in my life. And so when I came back, I quit that job. I was right away headhunted for another job, which was like even bigger, if you can imagine. Like, Procter and Gamble is your clients. Like, in advertising, you don't get higher than that. And within 3 months, I was completely disillusioned with that. And I was in my room and I was reading this book called Yoga and the Quest for the True Self. And on the first page, I decided to give up my life, my apartment, my career, everything, and move to Portugal and trying to find that alignment of all of myself.
Wow, that's amazing. So what was that on that page, on the first page? What do you remember what you read that really just
No, it wasn't
triggered?
that. It was so the way I typically make decisions is things kind of like run in the background, maybe some research, kind of like, thinking, etc. And this could go on for even quite a few years. And I'm kind of like making a plan, but in a fairly passive way. And then at some point, things kind of snap into shape. And that's when I say, okay, so it may seem completely random, but it wasn't. It came at that particular moment because somehow that moment needed to push me forward. So, but there was nothing on the page. I don't even remember exactly which page it was, but it was one of the, I think it was still like the forward page.
But it must have been something in that, probably, most likely, that sort of just was adding to that last puzzle, the piece of the puzzle that
possibly,
now it's time to move on. So can you recall the feeling was that a feeling of fear or was that a feeling of excitement, or do you remember?
It was a feeling of excitement. I'm the opposite of risk averse. So anything that is new, that is an adventure, that is a challenge, automatically excites me. I've moved around my entire life, so moving countries is like the most normal thing for me. I grew up between Ukraine and New York City, basically like all of my childhood and teenage years, going back and forth between the two countries. I then at some point moved to London kind of on a whim, and I ended up staying there and having a business there for 5 years. They came back to New York. So the idea of moving countries wasn't new. It was like, in the way, now that I think about it, it's always been a shortcut to, okay, this is the next phase of my life. And so, and I didn't feel nervous about quitting my job. I had kind of like put all of these things into motion several years prior. So I knew, when I came back from London, I went back to New York to advertising, but I knew it wasn't going to be a forever life for me. And so I started kind of like lining things up and shifting my career in a way that I could work remotely, that I could become at least location, independent, while still having, a lucrative career and dynamic, interesting career. So this wasn't really like I woke up and said, okay, like we're gonna change our lives today, you know? But so like a lot of things were already kind of in motion, and at that point I said, okay, now we go.
Now it's time. Now we're going. So then you bought a ticket to Portugal?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, I mean, I had to like rent out my apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, so I needed to like get all the stuff out, like put everything in storage, and my car lease. I was the first person to quit this brand new agency, which was also interesting. And so, I mean, I basically wrapped up my entire life in a month and a half. And September 1st, 2016, I was on the plane with 2 suitcases, 1 suitcase of books. Very stupid if you're...
But if you ask me, I'm the same.
Right.
The books had to come.
Yeah, the books, the clothes. And then, I came here and I rented a car and I kind of like drove down the Alentejo coast, stepping in different places and thinking like, okay, this is the new life. Like, where do we start?
Wow. But it sounds like it was just a smooth shift and a smooth transformation. But I understand that obviously there were things happening on the way that obviously was both uncomfortable and maybe not so clear when you actually made the decision to really pack up and sell everything and go.
The difficulty was in the preceding months or years, because that's what made me so uncomfortable and so unhappy that I needed to make such a radical step. And I think that's kind of the core of what's happening now with a lot of people, and why we're seeing so many people move here to Portugal, because there is that tension. There's the tension of a lack of a sense of purpose, the feeling of, my life is passing me by. Am I on the right path? Because all the paths we had been offered as the way to go and the ways to live our lives have not been proven to work anymore, right? Like, every day we step into a new reality with different rules and different way to think about ourselves, relationships, community in the world. And in this rapidly changing environment, what was true, even a few months ago or a few years ago, get a good career, have stability, etc. None of this is true. And so what's left is our feeling as humans. Do we want to continue following this framework blindly, the framework that no longer fits us and no longer really works? Or do we want to find a way that works truly for us, that one way to live our life, to meet our true selves, to truly feel alive? So that's the tension, And when you work these 12-hour, 15, 16-hour days, and when you make six figures and you're still miserable, and all the things that you fill your life with, none of them make you happy, none of them actually bring you, satisfaction in the truest sense, then you start searching. And that was my process. And I think, talking to so many people moving to Portugal, that seems to have been the path for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that you were a bit early in that sense, because you came in 2016. Because I think that the big shift was post-pandemic, or maybe during the pandemic, when people started to when things slowed down and people started to connect with, oh wow, is this how life could be? And I've been running around like a madman, mad woman before, and just chasing the dream, the career, the hours, the just the money, the numbers, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, when you can stop and create that room to just feel, and not be so much in your head in what you think is the path for you and what you think is a successful life. Is that what you've experienced as well? That it's
absolutely
changed?
And then, but the trick is, just like with everything, when you've really been on the path of personal growth for some time, you realize that it's all like little steps, right? Like you come into like one kind of experience, and you go through that particular type of transformation. You think, oh, cool, we're done now. Right, exactly. And then you live your life, and in some ways you still keep some of the some of the habits. So in some ways you go back to your to your comfort zone, and then you're faced with like the next challenge, and then you have a different growth experience. And at some point, after maybe the third one, you start to realize, okay, we're not actually going to be done. It's but it's an interesting process. And so I think the anxiety and the kind of the raw feeling of it subsides a little bit, and you start to welcome it a little bit with more of an openness and a sense of flow and a sense of curiosity. So every time this new kind of like phase, this new step, this new level of self-acknowledgement and growth comes, you meet it rather than being, oh, fuck no again, So I think that's what you realize once you've made this first fundamental step. You've moved to Portugal, you're like, okay, new life. And it's amazing, like the first 6 months, you're just drinking wine at sunset. Like, let's be honest about this. And then you understand, okay, well, I made this fundamental change for a reason. Now let's figure out the next phase of our lives. And that's what also happened to me, I think, within the first year or so.
But would you say, because for me, that's been with all those women I've been talking to and doing some research about resilience, what is resilience really? And I think what you're explaining is that the first big shift is the most difficult one, and then it becomes easier. Would that be for you what resilience is all about, or how do you have a definition of like resilience?
That's a really good question. Resilience for me has to come from a sense of purpose. Like there has to be a why. Because if you're just, for example, when I had my agency job, you could call me resilient because, I mean, if you're working 16-hour days and you have like, a few crazy bosses and a super demanding client, but that's not real. It's resilience, which is self-detrimental. But it's not. It's resilience because you're pushing through, not because you're actively creating. The resilience that I'm talking about with the capital R is the resilience when you continually choose to meet challenges and to meet obstacles because there's a deeper meaning to it.
Yeah. And I love how you put that, because that's exactly what I feel as well, is that, I mean, when you actually know that, okay, I know that this is happening to me for me for a reason.
Yeah.
This is meant to happen because I need this transformation. I need this growth, this pain, this suffering, this fear, this big change that I feel called to move towards. It's there for a reason.
And it's also the feeling that it's not just something that's happening to me, that you're an active participant. Because if you feel like something is happening to you, you're automatically in the victim mindset. You need to take ownership, even of the shitty moments, even when it's not your fault that the bureaucracy is not working. You still need to take a sense of ownership in the overall experience and in your role in the process. And it's through that ownership that you kind of like relax into the challenge and take a more active role and start to lead rather than follow.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when it happened. This is happening for me, not to me.
Totally.
And I can be here by the wheel, at the wheel, controlling this journey in one way or another.
To some degree.
To some degree. Or at least to have the sense of...
On the good day.
On a good day. Yeah, because there are obviously other days as well. That it's really, that's a bit more challenging. But tell me, you came to Portugal then, you rented your car, you had your 2 suitcases, one filled with books, and I fully agree with that, because that's part of so much of your life, isn't it? If you're connected to your books, if you read a lot, books are really important. That's your,
I think a suitcase was a little bit of an overkill.
Yeah, it could have been, but anyways. But you got here, you rented a car, and you started to drive around. So, and you drank wine for 6 months, and then?
Pretty much, then it was like, time for the gym.
So, and then...
Well, so I ended up actually settling down in Lagos, which 9 years ago, imagine coming from New York to Lagos 9 years ago. It's like moving from the center of the world to the place where the train ends, literally and figuratively. So after the first, couple of weeks where I was like, oh my God, the ocean and the wine and the ocean and the wine, this is amazing, and I work 2 hours a day and like have nothing to do and this is beautiful. Then at some point you're like, okay, well, this is boring. Like, what are we gonna do? Yeah. So it was also the touristy season, so a part of me was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I just moved to like the Times Square of Portugal. Really like, wow, what have I done? So I bought a car and I drove all over the country, thinking, okay, I generally like this country. The place where kind of like my soul was calling me to was the Alentejo coast, but I also know that I'm a very social person. And I had this kind of like idealized version of my life where like I would like rent a big warehouse, like right on the cliff, and have my art studio and finally do my welding and photography and everything, kind of like that, lone artist dream. But luckily, I know myself well enough, and I know that I love making art, but I also am a very social person, and I need to be around people. And so I ended up kind of parking that idea for a little while and driving around with the goal of finding a place to live. I didn't want to live in Lisbon because to move from one city to the other, that wasn't the point. I wanted to make this, kind of fundamental shift in my life. And then I stumbled onto the most picturesque coastal village in the entire universe called Ericeira.
Yes. Yeah.
It is the definition of a picturesque coastal village. I mean, that should be like when you type that into search, like that should come up. You know, that is the quintessential beautiful coastal village.
I totally agree.
It's gorgeous. Yeah, we live here.
Yeah. Okay, and then.
So I settled down here, and then I thought, okay, what am I going to do for the next phase of my life? And so for a while, I had been toying with this idea of creating what I called in my head an art hotel. So it's a combination of a creative space, a space, for community exchange of knowledge, creativity, but also with the hospitality element, because homes have always been very important for me. As I said, like I've moved around my entire life, and so I have this really well-defined and strong idea of what is a true home. And I've lived kind of on the road for many years, for 6 or 7 years of my life. I had a press photo agency, which took me all over the world, like living out of hotels for 300 days out of the year. And so I really defined for myself what makes a good home. And I wanted to create that there's so many shortcomings in our built environment, and I'm not going to go on a tangent here, but but essentially everything that is built for us is not actually built for us, with us as the end users in mind. There are many other forces at play when a real estate project is being developed, whether commercial or residential, but the end users, the people who actually occupy these spaces, are not really that important, which is crazy when you think about it, because when you think about software or any digital product, it's all user-centric. No one ever would even imagine developing a digital product without the user in mind, because the barrier to entry is very low, and you can switch between apps, but like if you got to live somewhere. So anyway, so there's a lot that we can improve in the way we build and design our environments, our living environments, our third spaces, our, all the built environments that we're in. And I think that our lives as human beings will be much better, much richer, much healthier if we live and spend our time in spaces that are designed for us to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's why I decided to embark on this crazy project.
Because it's really, when you look around, and because now I live in Lisbon, and there are some beautiful areas and some beautiful homes, but then you've got these really, really poorly designed gray areas, housing that's not built for people to be thriving or to be happy in.
Yeah.
And I find it so amazing. So that this happens, so it's not just here. I mean, you see it everywhere, that there are a lot of like poorly built buildings. And I think there is a reason, obviously, but that's another other discussion for that. But so this project then, tell us more about the project, because it's very obvious when you listen to listen to you, I sit here in the same room, I can feel the energy, how passionate you are about this.
So it's been also a very interesting personal growth story. I started, with the idea of this building that could encompass all the things to make us happy, dynamic, healthy, in all the ways. So I hired an architect. I read a whole bunch of stuff around, from kind of like the healing psychology, therapy angle to design and architecture, and kind of combined a lot of these teachings into a framework, which eventually I actually developed like a formal framework. It's called the Thrive Framework, across like 6 different aspects, specifically for spaces designed for flexible humans to thrive in. But over the years, as I kept kind of like researching and learning more and understanding who I'm building for, and what people are going to do there, and how I want to help people on their journeys while they're at the property. And so the property kind of like evolved and designed. So it's a wood construction. I wanted to make sure we're not building with concrete. I'm very, very clear about my role as a property developer in the overall sustainability of the area and in the world, right? This is a very small project, but every small project contributes either positively or negatively to the world we live in. And so for me, it was important to minimize the negative kind of outputs and maximize the positive. So very strong sustainability credentials. We're building with wood, which is as opposed to concrete, it's much more energy and water efficient by order of magnitude. Like, we're joking about like crazy, how much water we're actually saving by not building this huge 600 square meter structure from concrete. But it's also about the resident experience, because living in a structure that is made of natural material like wood or brick feels much better to the body. So the material breathes. You don't have the condensation. You don't have the mold that you have in these concrete buildings. It's a much warmer feeling. You want to always kind of like be with as much living in natural materials as much as possible. And then I started designing the space based on what kind of experience would people have. So thinking about this idea of togetherness for introverts. Like, you want to be close to the action, but not in the action. You're living somewhere for a few weeks, so there are moments when you want to be social and moments when you want to be a little bit more solitary.
Because this is a space for working and living.
Yes.
So I think if you just want to expand on that. So it is a co-living, co-working space.
Yes, so it's co-living, co-working. So it's the kind of place where you would stay for a week to a few months, maybe, if you're a location-dependent entrepreneur, founder, if you have a remote job, if you're on sabbatical, if you're writing a book, if you're working on a project. It's a place where you would come and have, an incredible kind of work environment. There's a beautiful co-working space with all the equipment you need, but you also have a community of interesting people that you can connect to. But you also have your private room with your, with your desk and your bathroom and everything, where you could have some solitude. And there are also spaces throughout the property designed for solitude and connection.
It's beautiful. And I love this project.
Thank you.
And that's why I'm also a part of this project on a little...
I'm very excited.
Yes, I'm really excited about see that come to shape, to form. And it is your passion, that's your passion that driven that project, which obviously also shows a lot of resilience. Because for everyone that knows a bit about Portugal knows that it takes a lot of... persistency, maybe, to move forward with the project, especially as a foreigner.
Yeah.
Or would that be your experience, that you've been treated differently because you're not Portuguese, or
what I've noticed, and that actually, I thought that was the case, but I had never actually faced this experience. But now that one of our co-founders, Joao, is helping me a lot with the banks, and he goes to every bank meeting with me. I see the difference between people, understanding me and kind of engaging with the project and really connecting at a human level. So in the past, I've been on national TV, I've been interviewed, there's been a lot of interest around this project. So when I walk into rooms to talk to banks, etc., they know about it, there's an interest, there's, there is a warm feeling, but it's still quite distant, Yeah. And I never really noticed that because I didn't have anything to compare it to. But actually recently, I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago, Joao and I went to the last bank that we're talking to, and again, the conversation started out very polite but a little bit distant. But it was the moment where one of the bankers realized that he and Joao had their family homes right next to each other in Ribamar. That was the switch. There were smiles, that's where the warmth came in. So I don't think I'm being treated differently because I'm a foreigner, but I cannot connect on the same level as someone from here. It's my shortcoming as being a foreigner, so I understand. But in all the other ways, I mean, I have an amazing architect who's been with me, for all these years and went through so much with me, and have gone above and beyond, and I work with very good people. Would it have been easier speaking Portuguese and being Portuguese? Yes. But in general, this is also like a very difficult process. I talk to property developers, friends of mine, I mean, much bigger than me, with much bigger projects, who are Portuguese, who have Portuguese teams, and it's difficult. Property is always a very long process, no matter where you are. There's a lot of risk, there's a lot of capital investment, there are a lot of moving parts, Doing it in a foreign country, doing it in a country that is also quite traditional, doing a project that is very different, very innovative. I mean, we're building in a way that 1% of the houses are being built here, less than 1%. There's literally one contractor, one builder in the country that builds the way we want to be building. So what I'm doing is very different conceptually, but also on the executional level. So the fact that I am being received with understanding and warmth and kind of like these ideas of being welcome. I think I'm very grateful for that. Has it been easy? No.
No.
But there's also been, a global pandemic and the war in Ukraine and, all the, a few events here and there in the last few years.
Yeah, that's been really
yes,
putting some strains on that.
Yeah.
But would you say that your previous experiences in making the big shift to Portugal, moving, I mean, with everything that happened when you, after that retreat, those experiences in building that resilience, like that strength, the knowingness and connection to who you are and what you want to achieve, has that helped you in this project building this co-working, co-living space?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think particularly in having the habit to check in with the North Star. Because there were moments when I thought this was not going to happen, huge setbacks of every kind. I mean, really, there were moments when I was like curled up on the couch crying all weekend. But every time, and I mean, the amount of money, of my own money I've invested into this is just obscene at this point, So I've risked everything for this project. And every time there was a low moment and I thought, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Why am I doing this? But it always came back to, what is the sense of purpose? What is your North Star? Like, why are you here? What is it that you want to, what is the legacy, right?
Yeah.
And it always came back to, I want to create a blueprint of the way we could build and we could live to be in harmony with ourselves, each other, and nature. So that North Star, and coming back to that North Star, was the product of the experience I had at the ashram and the subsequent study, and kind of like, aligning myself, making sure to always check in to, why am I doing something? Yeah.
That's really good advice, isn't it? To really check in that and have that.
Yeah. Because it's important to develop that. Otherwise, we're just gliding through life kind of aimlessly,
But isn't that what a lot of people do?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people are unhappy. Yeah. And that's why it's so easy to distract people, and people, lose themselves scrolling because they don't have anything else waiting for them, or they don't think they could be doing something else to express or to get closer to their true self.
But it is possible.
Yeah. We're humans. I mean, we have so much potential inside us. And I think a lot of the things that we read, anything from university to personal growth, to therapy, to all of these things, we're not really learning anything new. Or for the most part, we're not learning anything. We're unlocking that innate knowledge in us, and we're letting it out. But it's up to us to then continue to check in with ourselves to make sure we're on the right path.
So how do we know that? is that a feeling? I mean, if we're on the right path or not, would that be a feeling? Would that be like?
It's a good question.
Is it possible to label that in a way? How do we know?
What comes to me now when you talk about this is this feeling of emptiness, which we sometimes feel, and that's when we've kind of like feel the need to like, you know, pick up a cigarette or a joint or a glass of wine or go out to be with people to consume energy rather than produce, right? So I think when you start to feel that you need more and more of outside nourishment, then I think, at least for me, you're veering off your path, right? Because when you're fulfilled within yourself, yes, you enjoy other things, right? But you don't crave them so much because you're not empty inside, if that makes any sense.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It just really resonates so much with me. And I do believe with you listening as well, because it is really this void within. When the void becomes too big, then you can, I mean, I think that the small void, you can, like when you got the small emptiness, when you can fill it. But when that grows and becomes bigger, you can no longer.
Yes. And then when it becomes a pattern, you know, when you notice, when you catch yourself like, oh, I'm going out 4 nights a week. Okay, why are you going out 4 nights a week? You know, is it because you can't sit with yourself?
Yeah.
So that then kind of like perpetuate the next loop of your personal growth. You're like, okay, well, I've untangled some things. I think it's time to start untangling this other, like, you know.
Yeah. Because it keeps it on going.
Of course, yes.
That's why we're here, isn't it?
I thought we were here to enjoy.
Yeah, but it's a part of it, isn't it? Because we're so lost, we've forgotten about who we are and why we're here. So, and that is that. And also we live in a world that is not, it's not made for who we really are. Right.
And that's why a lot of people are changing their lives and, you know, quitting corporate careers and moving to Portugal to start regenerative projects or make kombucha or make bread. The number of lawyers I've met who have become bakers, it's just like incredible. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're all on this path in whatever way that makes sense for us, you know, in the way that we're ready for it.
It's interesting that with the bakery to make bread, because there's something so it's nourishing, it's fundamental to get something or just,
and it's also it's visceral. It's like you're doing something with your hands, which for the last 3 or 4 generations has been relegated to, like, you know, a lower level profession. Like, you know, knowledge work was regarded as higher value.
Yeah.
And look at how knowledge work is disappearing before our eyes. For the most part, whether or not it's good, I don't know. I think the pendulum will probably swing again. But knowledge work is actually taking a step back to more, let's say, manual work, you know. People are, you know, making candles, making bread, creating like all kinds of projects where they're actually in touch with the physical reality. I think we crave living in the physical reality again, you know. Like back in the day, we would go online to escape, you know, the real world. Now we're coming back to the real world to escape the online world.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And because we're not made for that world, the online world.
It's just
to
too
that
fast.
extent, it's just too much, too fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's just overwhelming. And it's really fast, and our brain actually cannot catch up with the developments and the barrage of information coming from all sides that we need to process and somehow, you know, somehow respond to. So we're just overwhelmed. The entire time, 24/7, we're completely overwhelmed with our lives, and also having FOMO, and also, you know, kind of like still also trying to steer the ship, you know. And so I think it's really difficult to be alive right now, and trying to not just you know, in the dreamlike state, follow, you know, some kind of a framework, you know, that's crumbling before your eyes, but actually like taking an active role in your future and present is even more tricky now. Yeah.
And it's really hard. I'm thinking about that with all the children that goes to school now. I mean, just trying to, because the school system is just obsolete. It was obsolete a long time ago, but now it's super obsolete because we really need to, I mean, kids need to learn the skills of making bread, going out in the forest, finding, I mean, we need other skills because everything else is there. It's already, we can just, it's like my 18-year-old son, he said that for the last 4 years that I don't see why I need to go to school. I can just Google everything. And now you just ask AI, ChatGPT. You don't really need to, but everything else that you need to do with your hands and build and create, you cannot.
We're going to need creators because AI is trained on a set of data that exists. It's fundamentally, it's not something that can create, you know, something new. We need people who will think and who will reimagine the world because the world will need to be reimagined, you know, a few times at least during our lifetime. And it's only people who can do that. And I'm sure there will be a, you know, kind of like a swing back towards, and I already see this happening, you know, just the amount of content I see around this idea of disconnecting and around the idea of kind of like limiting your inputs, and because we need clarity, you know, with all this, everything happening around us, what we need is really clarity. And in order to have clarity, you need silence, you know? So it's this idea of a conscious pause, this Japanese concept called ma, which is what Ioma is based on, but it's translated as the space in between. This is something that I feel we consciously and unconsciously crave in our lives. Yeah. The idea of being able to stop and think, you know, and recharge and regenerate, and then take the next step out of the spaciousness of having had that pause.
Yeah. It is in the space in between where that we need that in order to actually expand and grow. Yes. So that's why meditation and silent practices are so beneficial for us, because that's where we create that space.
Yeah.
You know? It's beautiful. I just love this with the Ioma, this where you actually, the space in between, and how that it's the bridge between the inner and the outer world.
Yeah, exactly.
And how you sort of connect those into a physical reality that's also beautiful, and just that also feeds your eyes, your touch, your senses in a way that we miss out.
Because we need the senses in order to invite the pause into our lives. Yeah. This is actually the reason why I love the gym. It's so crazy to say this, but the gym is the only way that I can connect to my physical body, because I live in here, you know.
In your head.
So it's the same thing. So we need to create environments, built environments that help us disconnect from the noise and tune into ourselves through physical practice, through spiritual practice, through, you know, kind of being faced with beauty, with sound, right? Like all of these moments, you know, when you close your eyes early morning, you know, you come out on the meadow early morning and you feel the sun in your eyes, and you close your eyes and you take that sip of coffee, like that, you know, that moment.
Yeah. That's all worth it, isn't it? To be going through all these challenges in life and whatever you're, because it's also part of being alive, because you feel it.
I think that's also a key thing in resilience. Understanding that there always will be challenges. Yeah. Because when you meet it from the point of view of a victim, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me, it's a heavy feeling that you feel like you have to push through things. But when you already expect, okay, things are not going to be easy, like the next thing comes, you're like, okay, well, this is the challenge now. I think you can meet it in a much lighter kind of mood, which is then it's easier to mitigate. It's easier to deal with that when you don't have to push through your own resistance, because it's already hard to deal with the thing. But if even before you start to do that, you have to deal with your own resistance. That makes the job much more difficult. So I think that's also a key. And I've read, some smart people who basically said the same thing. Like, you have to be ready. You have to accept the fact that there will be hardships. The moment you do that, it's going to be much easier for you.
It's about surrendering to. It is what it is. I have a friend of mine who keeps on saying it is what it is. And it's a really, I don't like that expression, but I more prefer loving what is, because this is life. If you, I mean, this is life. A life you've been given. You're blessed to be here, to live a life. And it's not always easy, but if you resist it, it's going to be harder. So instead of asking, and then you can ask yourself, okay, so what can I change in order to move forward, to not stay in here in this painful, tough life? What can I do differently? How can I change? So I think that's also the difference of being a victim, like in asking the powerful questions that start to move you, that starts to sort of create some sort of momentum in your system. And one great way of doing it, obviously, is to connect with your body. Go to the gym, go for a walk, because then your body will help you to release a lot of things in your system, and that will just makes it easier to move forward.
And also being with people, connection, community, is incredibly helpful. I mean, I started this project without, it wasn't really about the ego. Like, I just didn't have anybody else to do it with. But the idea was like, I have this incredible idea, and I'm gonna bring it to life no matter what, So it's like, grow up with an idea of this building that's just gonna fix the world, But as I was going through the project, it really shifted into much more of a community, endeavor, and it's made me face myself so much more. Being able to trust my co-founders and invite them in, but also I was always afraid to be a bother, because my investors, especially the close ones, that are helping me, they've already invested into this project. They're already trusting me. I felt uncomfortable asking for help. And it was actually like a couple of conversations with Joao, who was upset with me for not asking for help, that made me feel that I had the right to ask for help. And that unlocked a lot of things, in me, And so this shift from, being an island to opening up to the people you're building it with. But even outside of that context, for anyone else, this idea of a lone founder on the top of the hill is complete fucking bullshit. First of all, nobody gets to the top on their own. And if you're there, you're alone. Like, there's no point in that in the first place. So building with people, I mean, I've been building in public for the last 2 or 3 years. The amount of shame, vulnerability, discomfort that comes with is, I can't even, indescribable. But the amount of beauty and love and gratitude that I'm filled with is much more, So I get support from people completely randomly. I hear people, strangers coming to me saying, oh, this person over there, I know from LinkedIn, told me about this project and it's amazing and I want to support you. So there's, it's also, as, someone who's been raised as the only child, individualist, right? Like, with this idea of I have to achieve everything on my own. This has been an incredibly interesting process of inviting others on my journey and making it a journey of us and not a journey of me.
Wow, I really thank you for saying that and sharing that, because I think that's really a message that needs to ripple out here, because we're made for to live in community, in connection with people. Where this with vulnerability, that's something bad. It's a sign of weakness. That's strength. That's needed. It's required to step into that, because then you get the rewards. And that's really, you're really putting such beautiful words on that it's just really, it was hard, it was difficult. But in the end, that gave you so much back. And I think that's what we need in this world now. We need to feel like we're actually a part of something, that we can, that we reach out to human beings, and we connect, and people really want to help and support.
That's so true. Yeah, every time you kind of like feel apprehensive about reaching out to someone, whether it's a friend, an acquaintance, or a connection, just know that on the other side, like actually people feel really good when you reach out to them, for the most part, you know. When people, you know, come to me and say, hey, like, I'm building something similar, or I'm thinking about, you know, building community, etc. Like, and I've heard of you, and can you spend some time with me? Like, it makes me feel so good. Not in the ego sense, but like I've learned so much on this journey that I don't want to keep it all inside. I'm not going to write a book because I'm busy enough, you know. So if people are coming to me, I'm super happy to share everything I know. And it creates this beautiful energy between people.
And now this is a call out as well. I think we will obviously put all the information, how to reach out to Kate, how people can talk to you if they've got a similar project, or if they got inspired by anything else you said, which I'm sure that they did. Because it's been a beautiful conversation, and this about really tackling life in a way that you describe. It's beautiful, and I think it's really important to share that in a way that you've really shared with us.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm happy to share all my trials and tribulations and life lessons, and so if anyone wants to reach out, you know how to find me.
Yeah. And I think, thank you. And I think that is really, I mean, this is the whole purpose of this podcast. That's why, because for me, this is a passion project. I'm just doing it because I really enjoy it. And I think that there's so much to create that community, to connect, and to actually hear from other women's stories, how they overcome challenges, how they tackled life, how they stepped into their best versions of themselves, connecting with themselves, and then finding that North Star that will lead the way, and how you overcome that, and how you live with that. So that's my whole intention with this, and thank you so much for sharing all of that. Is there anything that you want to say, like a final word to just sort of to share with our listeners? Or
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your beautiful and deep, insightful questions. I think that helped me formulate some of these ideas, and some, you know, some of the kind of feelings that I've had, but actually like put them together in a way that can be easily received by someone who may need it at this moment. Final thoughts. I think resilience is something we should welcome, rather than it being a thing that, oh well, now I have to be resilient, you know. And I think it's looking at it as adventure, having like a little bit more of playfulness. And also being able to zoom out from the current moment, to know that, okay, this is the moment when I have to be resilient, and I have to meet this challenge. But this is actually like a tiny moment in my life, and in kind of the life of the universe, if that makes any sense. And not to diminish your own importance, but to maybe take a little bit of pressure off this moment, so that you can still enjoy it, because we don't have that many moments to enjoy. And so my message would be, just to make it a point to enjoy your life as much as possible. That's the whole point. I just want to be happy.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kate, for your wisdom and how to share that with us today. And for you that are listening, just go out there, just embrace life as it comes to you and just go and flow with it, because life is a gift. Even not some days it's really hard, but it will be worth it in the end. The reward is so big. So go out there, be resilient, keep on doing the work, and until next time, take care.